This is the Real Positive Girl Podcast, and I am your host, Sabrina. I am here chatting with you about your emotions, your mental health struggles, how to take those first few steps towards being more vulnerable, being more honest, and being more self-aware. Self-awareness is a skill that a lot of us need to have in our toolkit. And we do this 2 times a week, so welcome if you are new. Today, we are going to chat all about your habits dictate your life and how to create habits that align with your goals. But before we do that, let me just ask you a quick question. Have we become friends online yet? If yes, let's make it more real by sending a message so we can at least say hi and hello and, just like get that chit chat started. But if not, check the show notes below for my name on socials. I am at Sabrina Joy Perozo on both IG and TikTok. And if you like to hang out in the Twitterverse, I am at Real Sabrina Joy. So, come say hi, friends. Again, how to spell all that is available for you down in the show notes below. My next and final question is, have you signed up for the weekly newsletter? Or suggested a topic I should talk about? Or have you checked out the Planner Journal Hybrid that I have for sale on Amazon? If not, please take a peek at the show notes and you will find the links for all of those things and so much more. Check that out. And I think you'll find something that you'll enjoy, taking a look at. My final thing that I want to share before we jump into this topic is I am also asking for anyone that would be willing to support my goal of sharing mental health and mindset content online full time to become a monthly donor over on Patreon. The link for that is also in the show notes below, so consider that. And if you are don't want to, doesn't feel like your vibe, totally get it. You can definitely support me for free by simply sharing the show with someone and continuing to download and subscribe. Okay, well, check all of that out. I look forward to meeting you on socials. Now let's chat all about your habits dictate your life, how to create habits that align with your goals. So I was reflecting on a story or like a tidbit to share that is relevant to this episode, but I didn't come up with anything specific. And if you've listened to the show before, you know that I as of late, have been starting it with a personal story, connection, some sort of way that I can relate to what we're talking about. And this one I didn't find a very specific one, and I think that's fine. And I'm just letting you know, honesty is the best policy. But I do know that I would often compartmentalize things growing up as a child, thinking that separating thoughts and behaviors would make it so that one wasn't influenced by the others. It's kind of like those trays, those kid trays that you can buy where you can section off everything. So the peas don't touch the carrots, don't touch the mashed potatoes, don't touch the protein or whatever. That's kind of how I thought it should be in my mind growing up. I also think it's a trauma response. So if anyone relates to that, that's probably why. I haven't really looked that deep into it, but that would be my immediate first response to why I was doing that. But this isn't true at all, right? This isn't true. That's just everything works together. It's even why that book, I have not read this book yet, but it's like why that book, The Body Keeps Score, has come out and so many people have raved about it, because you think that a lot of the emotional trauma and issues that you have are just in your mind, but actually your body is connected to everything that you are feeling and experiencing and also going through pain and struggle and trauma. So it's just important for us to understand that everything works together. But when I was younger, I definitely thought that I could have questionable habits. I don't know what those questionable habits would have been, but I definitely thought that I could have questionable habits, but still work towards important goals and milestones. And it feels like such a silly thought now to think that that was how I thought life was. But a lot of us don't know things until we know things. That's just how it is. You don't know until you know. And then now I know. Also, really the thing that kind of drove this whole topic to existence, which often things turn out like this, where I will just become inspired by something and I just get really excited and then we're like, go. And I feel like those are the best topics, right? Because it's just like, I am passionate. I feel like there are rarely topics where I create that topic and I'm not passionate about it. It's just more of like, I know it's important to talk about this thing. It wasn't like inspired by anything that I saw out in the real world, but it is very important to talk about. However, there was a quote that I saw recently speaking on the idea that it isn't our choices that lead us to accomplish and achieve our goals. It's our habits, right? And here, let me read you the actual quote because you'll really appreciate it. And it was fantastic. People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. Let me read it again. It was so good. People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. So this quote is attributed to Frederick Matthias Alexander. I had never heard of him. I think if you look him up, a lot of times he goes by F.M. Alexander, F.M. Alexander, who was an author that created an educational method that broke people out of habitual habits and ways of doing life. Isn't that amazing, right? And so I didn't look into him like a whole bunch, but I just kind of wanted to figure out like, why is this guy popular? What was like one of his big things? And that was it. And he wrote several books. And so I was just like, when I first saw this quote, I immediately thought about how valuable this is and how needed it is for people to know about it and how it needed to be the next thing that I spoke about here on the podcast, because I don't think it's really an idea that a lot of us think about. And maybe you kind of like knew that, you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But maybe it's not an idea that you've actually fully fleshed out. But here you go, because we're about to do it right now. So we often believe that our choices are what lead us to accomplish our goals and continue to grow and move forward in life. Like that just seems very direct. It's the choices that lead to the getting to the goals and things and continue on that journey of life. But it's really the habits we establish in life that will be the leading force in where we end up, that will trend us to where we want to go. It's really the habits. And I took some time to really reflect on this before I decided to write up the podcast and get it ready for y'all, because I was like, is this true? Now, despite any sort of research and things that I would read and understand, I first want to ask myself, does this make sense? Does this feel real? How can it be seen, felt, understood in a regular life? And I was like, it is so true. Immediately, it just clicked and it's fantastic. So that's how I was like, okay, yeah, we are on board. So our habits influence our choices, actions, and often thoughts and feelings. So if we aren't engaged in healthy habits, we will think we are working towards one thing when actually we are slowly moving in another direction, who knows where, because we don't realize that our habits and our goals need to be aligned. And this was never anything that I would actually directly think about, Of course, sometimes there are habits that you need to create to accomplish your goals because it needs to be an ongoing thing that you're continually contributing to for you to hit a goal. The best example that I share all the time is running a half marathon, because I've done it multiple times. So I'm like, okay, I understand that you have to create the habit of running so many times a week and build that up. And that is a habit that you need to create that does align with the goal, because it's the thing you have to do to accomplish the goal. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that can just be like, I'm just going to go run one. I've never run before. I'm like, okay, picture me impressed. I am, because it took me a lot of work up to get to being able to run those ones. Well, one I ran really well. The other one I didn't run as well, but hey, did I run a third one? I can't remember. Anyway, it was a different season of life. I like running now, but I don't run as well as I did back in the day, where things just seemed to be harder, but simpler. Both. I don't know how to explain that. Anyway, so, we don't realize that our habits need to be aligned. And it's just one of those things where I think we know it, in our subconscious or whatever, but we don't really think about it. We don't really think about having the habits that we have right now every day. Maybe you have a habit every day of eating a certain cup of breakfast or drinking a cup of coffee or whatever. And, you realize that you feel like your body would feel better if you didn't drink as much caffeine, but you didn't decide to break the habit of having coffee every single morning. It's like that habit is not going to align with your goal of wanting to, run your body on natural energy or whatever you feel like is the case. I do not align with that goal. I like a cup of coffee. My doctor says I can have a cup of coffee every morning. It's great. And so it's just so interesting, right? I just find it so fascinating because I don't think we really think about that. I think we have habits that we do and we think that are fine, and we don't even think they're in the same room as the goals that we have. Maybe not even in, maybe the habits are in the guest house. I don't know. But I don't have a guest house, just so you know. It's just a grand example of a bougie example of me saying that I don't think we often are like, okay, all of these things are going to line up, right? I think they happen. Again, if you're going to run a half marathon or some sort of race, you're going to want to lose weight. Of course, you have to create the habit of working out, right? Those just feel like hand in hand. But let's say that you have the habit of wanting to have a child, right? But you struggle to do that. But you have habits that might be getting in the way of that are unhealthy, that might deal with putting unhealthy things in your body. It's like you don't think that those things relate to each other, but they do. Because a lot of it needs to be aligned, right? Or if you have a habit of having people-pleasing behaviors, saying sorry all the time, that kind of things, however you want to become this great leader that's looked up to and is respected. However, those two things do not align. There are leaders that are people pleasers, but if you want to be this great leader where you are feeling like really respected and are able to hold your own and not fall to anyone else's criticisms or opinions and things like that, being a people pleaser is not going to be your best friend. That's going to be really difficult for you to manage both of those things. I'm just saying. And those two things don't align. Isn't it crazy? You're it's just you could just take a step back and widen your perspective of being oh my gosh, this is a game changer moment. I'm just telling you, if you don't know, I think it is. Let's just call that out right now. Game changer moment. So yeah, you aren't engaging in healthy habits or habits that are going to be healthy in regards to the goal, then you're going in different directions. And so think of it like this, habits are patterns of behavior, right? As we know, that become automatic after using repetition to develop the habit. So we do it again and again and again and again. It's if you go to the gym every morning, it becomes a habit, a repetition. And so it's just an automatic thing for you to get up in the morning and grab your bag and go to the gym or go work out on your stationary bike or whatever. And so it becomes a pattern of behavior that's repetitious. So during my research, someone described a habit as a loop that reinforces the habit, a habit being a loop, which also makes it easier to repeat. So if you have a habit, it feels like it's once you have it established, it is a loop. I think I described that wrong. I apologize. I think I got ahead of myself. So habit is can be seen as a loop. So something happens or is triggered. So let's say you make the decision that you want to be able to run a half marathon, or maybe you're triggered by a situation where someone says something really upsetting to you and you become sad. And then you do the behavior. So maybe the behavior that you are linking with being sad is going and eating a bunch of junk food or things that you shouldn't eat, right? So you do the behavior. Or if your decision is okay, I need to go run a half marathon. And then the behavior is to go get a run in for however many miles that you need to do that day. And then you get the reward you were seeking. The reward is knowing that you are one step closer to being able to run a full half marathon, or the reward is that you feel comforted by the junk food that you ate because you were feeling sad. And so this is it's a habit. It's a loop that we created. And so now we feel good because that was the reward we're seeking. And so when it happens again, we'll just go around in that merry-go-round circle. So again, here's another example. if you are feeling really upset and the habit built out of this experience is to go shopping. Let's say that you hit up a Target or a mall or something, right? You go shopping because buying something new to distract you is the reward that you've created. Then that's what you'll do next time you're upset, despite knowing. See, it's important to understand that there is a despite knowing in there because it's so habitual. It's a loop. You're going around. You're not going to stop no matter what the things that you know, unless you make a very concerted, focused effort to. But that's what you'll do next time. You will go to the store to buy something new to distract you because that's the reward you created, despite knowing you should figure out a better way of what's happening under the surface of those feelings and really figure it out so you don't do that. Or even if you know that you don't have the money to be spending on whatever you find at the store, you're still going to go do it. You're going to whip out that credit card or you're going to count that cash and be like, what can I get? I have to get something. Anytime I'm upset, I come here, I buy something. What are we going to buy? What are we going to figure out, right? Because you've created this habit, this loop that you're on. So even if you have external information creeping in, hey girl, you've almost maxed out your credit card. You're just like, I don't care. This is what I need to do. Again, until you have a focused, concerted effort to make that change. And even then, when you're creating a new habit, you will sometimes take a step back and regress into the habit that you were, I guess the quote unquote unhealthy habit that you had before. But then you'll you'll regress back a couple times and then you'll continue to move forward, which is totally normal and okay, because that's the learning and growing experience. So, and since our habits are so deeply ingrained in us, the next time our brains need to make a decision, it's easier to go with the habit that already exists than to take the time to really figure out something else that's better, healthier, more fulfilling, So this is why it's important to identify if the habits that you currently have are healthy and if they're aligned with your goals. And so I would say that going to the store every time that you are upset to buy something new for a distraction from feelings, despite even if you do run out of money or you find yourself low on money or you don't need to be spending that money, even if you have loads of money, it doesn't mean you need to go to the store and buy something useless every time. That's why we need to identify, okay, maybe this habit isn't the best. Let's try to insert a new habit that's better, which is maybe taking a walk, calling a friend, working out, reading a book, hugging a squishmallow, all of those things. So we just got to reevaluate. Is this a healthy goal? So if you think you can carry on with unhealthy goals that won't help you get to where you want to be, if you know deep down in your soul, if you think that you can carry on with unhealthy habits, but still achieve everything you want in this life, this might be a bit of a wake-up call for you to be okay, I need to see if my habits plus my desire will equal my goal. And it might not. It might not. And I'm sure, you know me, I'm sure you've already achieved many things despite unhealthy habits. I'm sure you're no, listen, Sabrina, look at the accolades. Okay. But ask yourself, would it have been easier? Would it have been easier or less struggle to accomplish those things if I had habits that lined up with my goals? Would it have been easier? Would it have been less struggle? Really think about it. Really think about it. Because I like to prepare for all sides of the argument as much as I can without making this podcast a million years long. But I know someone's going to be oh no, I've had bad habits or unhealthy habits and still achieved everything I want. Yeah, well, I bet it could have been better. I bet it could have been easier, more fulfilling, whatever, quicker, maybe. I don't know. Just depends on the goal. So just something to think about. In the next episode, which is that one that's going to come out after this one in a few days, we will talk about how to shift our habits from unhealthy to healthy. We'll shift our habits from unhealthy to healthy in the pursuit of getting on the right track, which is so crazy because I really thought that I had already created an episode like that. And really the goal right here was to actually be like, so if you want to learn how to move your habits from unhealthy to healthy, go listen to this episode. And I hadn't. I had done like 5 episodes on habits, yet I cannot find an episode about going from unhealthy to healthy habits. And I'm like, how did I not do that? And that is like the theme. If you're not new here, you'll notice that I've said that many times. I'm like, how have I not done an episode on this? And I'm like, well, hey, that means that we're going to be here for a while, guys, because I still haven't done an episode on everything in the world in regards to mindset and mental health. So yay for us. Okay, but today we're going to chat about aligning our habits with our goals. So here are 5 tips on how to create habits that align with our goals. As always, before we go through the tips and advice, I want to let you know that these tips and advice are based on my own knowledge and research and my own experiences and the experiences of others that I'm able to share. If you find that these tips and advice do not align with what you think would be helpful and how to create habits that align with your goals, that's not a problem. I do encourage you to go seek out a counselor or a therapist, though, and have that one-on-one opportunity to figure out what would align with advice on how to create habits that align with your goals. If you don't want to do that, though, I'm just cracking up because I'm saying align twice. If you don't want to do that, I encourage you to go over to our best friend Google and type in how to create habits that align with our goals and look at all the blogs, videos, research papers, scientific stuff, all that stuff. And maybe you can find something there that would better fit. It's totally fine because we all have to find the tips and advice and the knowledge that's going to be resonate best with us and align with what we need at the time in that season of life. And that's totally fine. Like seriously. So anyway, there you go. Let's jump in. Here are 5 tips on how to create habits that align with our goals. Anyone ever notice how awkward it is for me to go from like the disclaimer to, okay, let's talk about it. Number 1, identify your goals and break down into smaller goals. So it's really important for you to actually like create some goals. Create some goals so that you can actually be able to break those goals down and then determine if they will be able to align with, the habits that you're creating. So when you create a goal, I should have looked it up. I thought I was going to look it up and I didn't. I actually have done an episode talking about how to create SMART goals. So that's like the acronym SMART. So when you're creating goals, like the best way is to use this method, which will be create a goal that is specific, is manageable, not manageable, excuse me. That's specific, measurable. That's the M word I was looking for. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So with whatever goal, like identifying your goals, make sure that it is very specific. You don't want to just be like, I want to be able to run all the races. No, pick a specific race. So if you're like, I want to run a marathon or half marathon. Okay, great. That is specific. And then if it is measurable, that goal is measurable because you're like, okay, I need to be able to run 13.2 miles. Great. Okay. So you'll know that you've achieved your goal when you were able to do that. And then you might also want to add in, if you want to be able to do it at like a certain time, like I want like a 10-minute mile, or I want a 9-minute mile, or like whatever it is. Or if you just want to like choose an overall time, like I want to be able to run it in 2 hours or less. Okay, great. So you have like it is measurable in that way. And then is it attainable? Do you think that being able to run a half marathon by the time that it comes around is attainable? So if there's a half marathon happening in 6 weeks and you've never run a day in your life, that is not attainable. I'm here to tell you. It's not. I would say that if you've never run a race before, you're going to want to count on 16 to 20 weeks. 16 to 20 weeks. And that's just really what it is. Like if you've never done this before. But if you're privy to it, I think the lowest amount is like 12 weeks because you need to be able to, work up to that race pace. And even then, maybe shorter if you're running long distances all the time. I don't really know all about that. But so you need to like determine if the goal is actually attainable, like within your time period, within your abilities, all these things. Because if you haven't even run, it probably is going to be closer to 20 weeks because you need to be able to work yourself up to running for at least 30 minutes without stopping at like I think it's like a 5, maybe like a 10-minute mile. No, a 10-minute mile is actually a 6. Anyway, on a treadmill, I'm thinking. Regardless, so you need to figure out if your goal is attainable. Is your goal relevant? Is it relevant to the things that you want to do? Running a half marathon, maybe it's always been a goal of your life, or maybe it is just an opportunity to really push yourself in your fitness goals, in your wellness goals. If it's something that you're doing for charity, I've done that before. Whatever it is it relevant? Does it make sense for your life? Does it make sense to put in all the time and effort that it's going to be to run, do those long runs that you need to do, maybe on the weekends, or maybe you need to do it during the week, and really find the time for training? Is that relevant for your life right now? Or do you have too many things going on that you will quickly break out of your training, like your training schedule, and then you won't actually accomplish it? Is it relevant? And then the last one is in time bound. So for this example, it is time bound because you've chosen a race that is happening on a certain date. So you need to be ready by that date to run the expected 13.2 miles. Sorry, 13.1. Wow, you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm sure in the last few minutes people have been like, no, it's 13.1. Yes, you're correct. I was like combining like a half and a full because a full is 26.2, a half is 13.1. I'm sorry, I was wrong. But yeah, so you'll have to determine like, okay, in this time that I have before the race happens, can I run 13.1 miles? And I think it has to be run like in 4 hours or less, or maybe 3.5. I don't know. There's usually a limit that you can take to run the race. So use the SMART goal plan acronym kind of situation. It is very helpful in just giving you like a formula in how, that's the word I was looking for, a formula. It's helpful in giving you a formula on how to create a really good goal. And so once you create that goal, you're like, I want to run a half marathon. Okay, great. Break that down into smaller goals. So I like to think of this as just taking your goal, breaking it up, and popping in little like progress milestone points for you to check in. And for this example, a lot of training plans already like have this, but let's say you're doing a different example of like you're building a business, right? You're like, okay, I want to launch a product by this time. You're like, okay, it's like a specific route. Let's say you're going to launch a journal, because that's what I'm familiar with, guys. Or maybe it's like a water bottle or something. You're going to launch a product. You've already created your SMART goal. Now you're going to break that into a smaller goal. You're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to have a milestone after I have finished mocking up the design. And then I'm going to have a milestone after I find a manufacturer for this product. And then I'm going to have a milestone where I submitted the order, or I saved enough money to submit the order to get it going. And then there's another milestone when you maybe get a sample of the product and you're able to review it and talk about it and share it with other people. And maybe there's another, just continue, like create like little like milestones. It kind of reminds me every time I think about this, not every time, most times though, if you've ever played the game Super Mario World, which is like my favorite game of all time, if you think about the different levels and how Mario has to go from like little circle, like flashing circle to get through each level, to get through that part of the game, that section of the game. That's kind of how I think of like progress points, milestones. It's like, okay, you have leveled to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, right? And so it kind of like keeps you on track. It kind of allows you to check in and see if things are still moving and grooving. Do you need to ask for help? Do you need to take a step back? Does it need to take a different journey? Do you need to find a secret access point to get to the next part? Just gives you an idea. So identify what your goals are. I would definitely say use the SMART acronym formula for creating goals. If you want to look back into the archives, I did do like a whole episode on that. It might have been multiple episodes actually. And that'll be probably 2 years back. You can listen to that. And then break it down into smaller goals with progress points, milestones to make it easier. And not as overwhelming, and opportunities for you to check in on yourself. Number 2, brainstorm habits needed to accomplish these goals. Brainstorm the habits needed to accomplish these goals. So we already know that if you want to run a half marathon, your habit to create would be running and working out, but also cross-training. Cross-training is really important. But then also other habits that you might even not think about is you have to have a habit to stretch on the daily. You have to have a habit to, eat more healthy and maybe get in the habit of eating certain things on run days to keep your fuel going. But let's move over to if you're trying to launch a product and start a business, the habits that you would need to accomplish these goals would be dedicating time every day or every other day, I would say, to getting through that progress point to get through that milestone. I prefer milestone. Let's just say that. To get through that milestone. So if you're in the beginning where you're like, okay, I need to design it, and it's going to take you a while to design the thing that you want, you can dedicate maybe 30 minutes or an hour every day to working on that until you're able to hit that next milestone of being able to turn that in or being able to find someone to manufacture, right? And so the goal, the habit that would be okay, I'm going to work on this every day. I'm going to spend time really figuring out what I need to do. Or maybe another habit would be to have a to-do list so that you don't, and to make sure that whatever you need to get done, you get done before that time that you've allotted, you've set aside to work on this project that you want to launch, so that all this other stuff you have to do during the day doesn't get in the way. So you have to be very disciplined and, okay, I need to get my to-do list done. I don't want this to become an excuse for why I did not work on this project, this item, this product that I want to launch. And this is going to happen anyway, right? It's just, there are going to be points where we take a step back, regress just a little bit because things get in the way, things come up and we don't expect them to come up. And we were very disciplined about it. Or, there's going to be times where despite not feeling creative and knowing that we should be disciplined, we're just going to make the decision to not do anything. We're just going to be yeah, we're just not going to do anything. We're just going to take a day off. And that's fine, right? Because you're still be able to bounce back from that and get back on your routine of putting in the work, right? And other habits would be not trying to engage in other launches at the same time, especially if this is your first one. Maybe if it's not your first one, then you're privy to what needs to happen. You could do multiple things, but you don't want to get in the habit of doing too many things at once and becoming overwhelmed so that you just give up on everything. That could also be a habit of focusing on getting this one done or getting it to a certain milestone where then it's just going to be taken care of the rest of the way, right? So really brainstorm habits that are needed to accomplish these goals, as opposed to having the habit of just going out with your friends every night where you might not have the time then allotted. You might not be able to spend the time you need to work on the design or finding a manufacturer or saving the money, right? If you are going out with your friends every night and spending all of your money on all of that, then how are you going to have the money to pay the manufacturer to get this product going, right? Just thinking about those kind of things. Again, I'm not against going out every night. If that's your vibe, then please do. But you have to make sure that the things that you're doing and the habits that you have, which if you're going out with your friends every night, that's a habit of spending time with your friends every night, that's fine. Then you have to make sure that those goals those habits align with your goals. And if you're trying to save money, if you need to save money so that you can get this product manufactured, then going out with your friends every night and spending money that you should be saving it doesn't align, right? It doesn't align. And I'm not trying to call anyone out specifically, or just literally the example that popped in my mind, but we have to think of all those things. It's just anytime I see something online and I'm like, oh, it's a sale. That means that triggers this thing in my mind where I'm like, okay, it's a sale. I can spend money, but it's wait, hold on. Aren't you looking forward to something else launching however much in the future? Wouldn't you rather just save your money for that? Because that'll mean more to you than this random thing that you don't really need just because it's on sale, right? Just really thinking about being disciplined and what we want and knowing that we have a goal and making sure that everything aligns with that goal. So, brainstorm habits that are needed to accomplish these goals. Also, a habit might be having an accountability group and checking in with them every week. That's actually what I do right now. And that might be a really good goal to establish. So it kind of helps you stay on track with everything that you're trying to build in this new business. Okay, number 3. Wow, we were running. Wow, this is a long podcast so far. I just looked at the time and I was like, oh, okay. Number 3, create a routine around these habits. I kind of already talked about this a little bit, but so you want to create a routine around these habits. So if you are building this business and like trying to produce a product, you need to create a routine where you might need to check in. Like if you're going to have like an accountability group, check in with them, like whatever cadence you choose. Like for me, it's weekly. And your routine would be to make sure that the 30 minutes or an hour that you're going to spend every day or every other day to get to that next milestone in your business and your product, that you actually have a routine and like sitting down, making sure that you're not going to get disturbed, making sure you have everything you need. You're not going to like have like a lot of distractions happening. You want to focus and get it done so that you can hit that next milestone and continue to move forward. And having that in the routine so that if it's like 8:00 at night and that's like your time to work on your thing, you're like, it's just so natural for you to be like, okay, I finished dinner or I watched a TV show or I did whatever, did laundry, and now we're going to go sit and do this thing. And then we're going to go on to the next thing, right? You've created this routine of like, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. Because even things that aren't necessarily directly attributed to the goal in the habit can still work in the routine of like, okay, well, I better make sure that I keep my routine of like having dinner or doing this at this time because I know that what I'm going to do next is work on my project. And so I need to make sure that if it's a day where I need to work on this and I need to be home to do it, I need to be in that routine of being home by this time so I can get in the groove of working on it. Does that make sense? I feel like I chose a bad example. Sometimes I get like that. I don't always create an example ahead of time. And then I'm like, darn it, I should have spent more time creating an example. That's not like baked into my routine of creating the podcast. But I think you know what I mean. You know, like create a routine around your habit of running, which would be, I can explain that one a lot better. It's a lot easier of an example to go through, is having the routine of making sure that you wash whatever running clothes you like to use every week by a certain day so that you can just have it ready. And then you can set that stuff out right before you need to work out, or you put it in your gym bag. If you go work out at the gym, you don't work out at home. And you just have it ready and you know where everything is. You have like a designated spot where you're going to grab those things and take them with you. And then you're going to go do your workout. And then you're going to put it in a certain spot when you get back so it gets washed and you can have it again for the next time that you work out. You know what I mean? Just create a routine of like, this is how this is going to go. It makes it so much easier to hit that next milestone on your way towards accomplishing your goal. Number 4, check in on your progress and milestones. Check in on your progress and milestones. So it's important. I've already mentioned this multiple times. Milestones, you get to the next one and you want to check in. You want to be like, okay, like sometimes people will just like go from like milestone to milestone to milestone and they'll just like hit them so quickly. You know, maybe your milestone for running your half marathon is going from like 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 miles. And you just like zoom through them, but you don't take a beat to really be like, okay, let's celebrate. Yay, I'm able to run 8 miles now. Oh, next week you're able to run 10 miles. It's so super exciting. And that's kind of what I mean. Like check in on your progress. Or if we're doing the business example, it's like, it's going to be a lot easier for you to check on that progress because you'll know when you hit that, you're like, okay, the design is complete. Let's move forward to finding a manufacturer, right? And so when you actually find someone, I would say even then, like, you know that you hit it because you found the one you wanted. Take a moment to celebrate. Take a moment to be like, yay, I have done this. I'm going to check it off on my big list, my big whiteboard, whatever it is. I'm going to share with my friends. Hey, this is where I've gotten. If you're sharing what you're doing, it's fine. I know it goes both ways. Some people do, some people don't, just depends. And being able to acknowledge that, hey, I have hit this milestone and this is a big freaking deal. I'm excited. So check in on your progress and your milestones, because if you're just zooming through like your goal and your habits for your plan, and you're not taking a moment to really like check in and make sure that you've actually hit them and you didn't like, maybe you missed some, right? Maybe you jumped over one, you didn't realize it. Just want to make sure everything is still in order. So check in on your progress and your milestones. And number 5 is reevaluate your habits and your goals regularly. Reevaluate your habits and your goals regularly. So it wasn't until this year that I decided that I think it's important for us to reevaluate a lot of our life quarterly. I think that some people would think this is too much, and that's fine. If it doesn't work for you, that's not a problem. But I even decided this year, because we're going to do a company-wide event where we're going to make digital and physical, if people want to, vision boards. And you're probably like, well, it's like we're deep into February if you're listening to this when it's coming out. And yeah, but I don't think that matters. I haven't made a vision board yet. I started collecting things online, like on Pinterest, and pinning them. But I didn't actually make one yet, not even a digital one. I just put the pictures on Pinterest. But for me to actually make a vision board, I need to put it all together in like a doc and either print those pictures out or just print out the whole thing together, which I plan to do this year. And to just really like see it for what it is and hang it up. But I haven't made one yet. I'm going to make one when we do our company-wide event at the beginning of March. And I think that even when June comes around, I want to reevaluate, are those habits still contributing to my goals? Or are those goals even the goals that I still want? And if not, then I need to reevaluate creating new habits or like taking a break from the habits that I've already established, because I no longer need those habits if I'm not going towards those goals. I mean, some of those habits can stay, like, right? Like if you're like, yeah, I already ran a race and I'm not going to do another one, even though I think I thought I was going to do another one. But maybe you still want to keep the habit of like running or cross training in like certain amount of times a week. That's still a healthy goal to keep. But, maybe you ran into a really, 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 really big problem with starting this business or launching this product. And you're like, okay, like this goal is no longer my goal. I was transitioned to something else. Let's figure out if these habits still apply. It's kind of like a reevaluate where we are. Again, some people might think that quarterly is too often. I think it's really great, especially if you felt like you're one of those people that feels very overwhelmed and very like you don't know where you feel like you should be in life. Maybe you have the mindset that you're stuck in life. And if you want help with feeling stuck in life, listen to the episode that came out right before this one, because I do not believe that we're ever stuck in life. We're just like not focusing on the right things for that season of life. So listen to that one for more information. Episode 469. It's a good one. But I just think it's helpful every 3 months. I'm not saying that you have to change it up every 3 months. You're just reevaluating. Is this still working? What problems am I coming up against that I haven't solved yet? Do I need to ask for help? Do I need to find a different way to do this? Is this so good that I can add more to it? Right? It's not all about taking away. It could be about adding it. Or it could just be like, yep, we're good. And then move on. And then we'll see you again in 3 months. And then if you want, you could condense it down to like twice yearly, maybe at the top of the year and then in the middle of the year. But it doesn't matter. It's like whatever cadence you choose. I just want to let you know that quarterly, I think, is really great, especially for people that are like always coming up with something else, to keep yourself accountable for staying on track and for really trying to ask yourself the hard questions of like, why isn't this working? What am I doing wrong? What needs to change? So reevaluate your habits and your goals regularly at whatever cadence that you prefer. I prefer quarterly. As of this year, that's just my decision. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see how it works. I think I'm going to love it. I think I'm going to absolutely love it. It can also be a wake-up call, because if you decided to, attach yourself to a goal and after 3 months you haven't done anything about it, it's a good time to be like, why? What the heck happened? So reevaluate your habits and goals regularly. But that is all 5 tips I have on how to create habits that align with our goals. I know I spent a lot of time on the first 3. Hopefully it was helpful for you. I feel like it was beneficial. And this is an important topic. So just remember that it is not our choices that dictate our life and help us accomplish our goals. It is our habits. And so we really need to determine if our habits align with our goals in creating, it's like all the things I already talked about. I don't really need to like repeat again. I just think it's so fascinating. And just know that the next episode that's going to come out again will be talking about how we can shift our unhealthy habits to healthy habits, which will be beneficial. in creating habits that align with our goals and getting rid of habits that don't align with our goals so that we can, succeed even more. But that's it. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast again with me, Sabrina. Do not forget to check the show notes below, talking all about signing up for the weekly newsletter that comes out every Wednesday around 7 p.m. PST, submitting an anonymous topic to the podcast, doing anonymous venting if you don't have anyone that's emotionally available to do that in your life, supporting the podcast via Patreon, being my friend on social. I was literally like, what else are we talking about? All of the things that you can find down there in the show notes. But again, the best way to support me without having to spend any money or not that much time is just sharing the show with someone that you think would benefit from it. So until next time, have a good one, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.